afternoon, good morning. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how to put together our fall photo collage. So today I just wanted to show you some fun tricks and tips in Photoshop that will help us get this collage put together nice and neat. So the first thing we're going to do is you're going to open Photoshop and you're going to make a new file, right? So this menu will pop up. And what you're going to want to do here in this menu is decide first, do you want your collage to be a vertical collage or a horizontal collage? And that decision is going to come from your previous, inspiration where you looked at that canvas page and got some ideas for what kind of layout you're going for. I'm going to go vertical. I think that's kind of my plan. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go horizontal. I think the horizontal one will work well. So now I'm going to click create 18 by, you can go 18 by 12. That's a good size. 18 by 12 inches. Make sure that's in inches. And then click create. And now I have my background. So the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to try to get my photos in here and start getting them laid out. So I've put my photos in a folder here where I have each of my kind of fall photos that I got. So I'm going to I'll start with this one with these leaves. I'm going to put these right into Photoshop and I'll just drag them right in. Okay, so now what I can do is I'm going to resize this and start kind of playing around with where I want this to go. I could even rotate this a little bit if I want this to be more horizontal. And I can get that kind of into position here. Perfect. Then I'm going to start grabbing some other ones. So I'm going to grab this pumpkin one and put this one in. And I'm just going to start getting these kind of placed where I think they should go. Trying to get the size to kind of match. Again, you can edit all of these in Lightroom first to get some of the contrast and exposures the way that you want them. And we can also do some fun adjustment here to make these look kind of neat and interesting as well. All right, so I'm going to get my other photos here. I got 6. So maybe I'll get this other horizontal one in here. Get this kind of composed in a nice kind of fashion here. Now we want this collage to take up about 75% of this page. And I like to leave some nice white borders around these just to leave some space. So we have a vertical one here, so I'll have to try to play around with that. So you'll get all your photos in the way that you want them. I might put this here and make this circular. We'll see. And then I got this vertical one as well. Make sure I hit return. So I'll get all these into that file. Make this one a little bit smaller. And then I think I got one more vertical. There it is. Hit that and get those in. Good. So I got my verticals. Maybe I'll pull this vertical over to the left here. I'll put this vertical on top. Maybe move this one over. Pull this one down a little bit and kind of get this kind of the way that I think I want it. So some things that we can do with these photos. First and foremost, we can layer them. I'm going to kind of get this a little bit more organized neatly. Get some of these pieces together. There we go. So I kind of got this nice, right? But again, this isn't my final collage. I'm going to do some things in here, maybe make some of these a cool shape and kind of piece these together a little bit. But again, more importantly, this is for me to show you how you can do some certain things in Photoshop to make these look cool. All right. So the first thing that I want to show you is how we can actually cut photos into different shapes so that they're not just squares, right? Like some of these collages, we notice that they have a circular layout, right? We could have a circular photo in there that could be really cool. That could be a really interesting kind of, that actually might work well with my design since I have a couple verticals. So maybe I'll go with something like that. So to make something circular, maybe I do this pumpkin. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a marquee tool. I'm going to first make sure that I have my photo active. And then I'm going to grab a elliptical marquee. And if I hold the shift key and I click and drag, I can actually get like a circle selection of a photo. And then what I would do from that is I would go layer, new. I take that back. I'm going to make sure that I have that pumpkin layer active here. And then I'm going to go layer, new, layer via copy. And what that just did is, you'll notice I have an extra layer here, is that cut my photo into a nice circle. Okay. So then what I can do is I can actually take that, I can make this a little bit bigger if I want. Get this centered kind of where I want. That could be kind of cool. And then maybe I have kind of these photos kind of jumping around. That. One circular photo. I can put these behind, so I can layer things behind and get things a little bit more pieced together. Can maybe make this one a little bit bigger and piece this here and put that behind that circular pumpkin. Get that one there. Maybe this one gets a little bit bigger and piece that behind that pumpkin, right? Get this kind of a little bit more unique here. Make this a little bit bigger so it fulfills a little bit more space. Move this one here and get that one behind. Get that one there. Maybe I'll switch these. Again, I'm just kind of getting my composition right where I visually see it, and then put my pumpkin on top. There we go. So now some of the things that we can do is I can actually cut these corners to match the circle that's above it, right? So like if we look at this collage example here on the Canvas page. So if I go back to the Canvas page, you'll see how some of these are cut to match the circle that's around it. So what I could do with that is if I actually click on that circle layer, and I go over to my layers menu here on the right, and I hold the command key and click, it's going to actually get a selection of that pumpkin. So now what I'm going to do is click on this top photo, make sure it's selected, all right, and then if I hit delete, oops, should rasterize that. So I might have to rasterize these. So if I right click on this, I can go to rasterize layer. There we go. So now if I click on that and I hit delete, it will actually delete that portion of the photo. So now I get like a nice little section that's kind of cut off that matches that. So again, let's say I want that to get cut from this leaf photo. I'll click on that leaf photo. I'm going to rasterize it. So that just basically makes it editable. So I'll click and go to rasterize. Then I'll click on my pumpkin. I'm going to command click on my pumpkin to get that selection. I'll click back on my leaf photo and then hit delete. And now you'll notice that I have that the kind of cool kind of circular cutout around that. Around that photo, and it gives it a nice kind of border there. Again, you want to make sure that you have your photos to size, otherwise this ring around might look a little weird. So you kind of want to play around with the spacing and get everything in the position that you want before you start cutting and so forth. So that's a way that you can use the marquee tool to cut circles and to also use that circle to cut edges out of other photos, right? So the next thing that we can do is we can actually add borders to these photos so that they pop out a little bit as well. So I could actually come up to maybe my photo here. I could change the background first and foremost. So I'm going to add maybe like a nice gray background here. So I'll go to my solid color or my adjustment layer and go to solid color. Maybe I'll make this background like a nice kind of muted gray color. And then what I'll do is add some backgrounds. So I can double click on, I'm going to work with this photo here. And I can double click on this layer and it pulls up this layer style menu. And I can do a couple things here. I can go into stroke. And stroke is the outline. So I'm going to make this nice and white. And then I'll make that size kind of big. Then I'll give that kind of a nice, nice kind of white stroke around that border, almost like it's kind of like a photo that's been pasted. Can do that with my pumpkin here. Go to stroke. And what's nice is it'll keep that same setting that I've already had. So I can go through here, go stroke. Click OK. Go here, double click and go stroke. That'll add like a nice border. I might have to reposition some of these photos here based on what I got. And you can kind of piece together and organize your designs based on that too, which could be kind of cool. And get those nice kind of strokes in there and get some of those lines on those photos. You can also come in and add drop shadows to these so that they kind of pop a little bit more, right? So I could maybe come in and add a drop shadow. So if I click on my pumpkin and I double click on that layer again, so I'll double click right here in this open space and I go to drop shadow. Where is it? There it is at the bottom. You'll see right now I have a drop shadow there. It's a little heavy. I can change the direction. And then I can actually adjust the opacity of it. So this is how dark it is. Distance is how far it travels. Spread is how like hard edged it is or how soft it is. And then size is kind of how much that drop shadow feathers. So that looks pretty good there. And what's nice about this is that drop shadow setting will remain for all of my photos. So now if I click on this photo of the leaves and I double click, I can add a drop shadow there. Still, I might have to adjust that a little bit. Opacity is a little high. I thought it would save, but I guess it didn't. And I'll reduce the distance. And I'll reduce the spread a little bit and make it kind of match. And I can do that with all of these and give that like a nice kind of drop shadow effect. So that those photos kind of stand nicely off of that collage, right? Gives it like a really nice kind of crisp look there to give that some life, all right? Now, I can also come in and add some text, right? Let's say I wanted to add like a square that says autumn or a rectangle that says autumn. I can actually grab a shape tool here. So if I go down and find my line tool, I can find like a rectangle tool. I can draw a shape. I can change that fill color to maybe be white. I can make that stroke nothing. That's the outline of that. And then I can actually add my type tool. I'm going to actually do this outside of that layer. So I'm going to grab my type tool. I can draw a box. I can type in autumn. Up at the top here with text, I can actually change some of that text. I can change the size or the font. I can change what it looks like. I can find something that's a little bit more cozy, a little bit less robotic or something, whatever you think might fit. Again, I can change that size so it's actually a little bit bigger up at the top here. There's some character styles over here. I can change the spacing of it. And I can change the color of it if I wanted to do something. I can even pull a color. If I hover over here, I can pull a color out of my photo. I can place that there. Shrink this a little bit. And I can use that and maybe place that over something in that kind of design. I can add a drop shadow to this as well if I double click and go to drop shadow. So you can get that kind of nice and organized in there as well. So realistically, getting your photos in, getting them kind of placed where you want them, adding some strokes and adding some drop shadows is really kind of cool. And that will give it some life too, so that that photo can really get some, you know, some life to it. Now, one of the things that we can also do is we can also add a photo filter to things so that they match. So if I click on this pumpkin photo and I go up to image, adjustments, and I go to photo filter, I can apply a warming filter. So if you look, it's just adjusting that filter, that photo. I can apply this. I can choose a color. Maybe I want that color to be a little darker. And you'll see it gives it like a nice kind of hue that's kind of nice and dark and toned. I can also adjust my contrast, brightness and darkness. So I might adjust my contrast here a little bit. Darken that photo, give it some coziness, make it match the hue of some of my other photos so that they blend well together. All right. So again, I can click on that photo. I can go up to image, adjustments. I can go to photo filter, increase the density of that filter a little bit. There's some other presets in here, but we'd probably want some of those warming filters so that it kind of matches the tone of our theme, right, which is fall. Okay? So get your photos into Photoshop, decide your layout, play around with cutting those photos and using those layers and selecting some of those images and cutting things apart. And creating a really awesome kind of design, right? I did show you how you could use the marquee tool to select photos and cut things. We can also draw like a free selection to cut a photo. So if I click on this photo here and I grab this lasso tool and I click, hold, and draw, I can actually free draw. Ooh. I can actually free draw a design, right? And then if I go layer, new, and go layer via copy, it will actually give me that kind of cutout. Looks a lot sloppier, a lot harder to do. That's why I stick with some of those basic shapes, but that is an option if you can keep it nice and clean. All right, so the time is yours to go ahead and get going on getting those images in, getting some strokes, getting some drop shadows, getting some text, and some photo filters. Best of luck. Can't wait to see what you come up with.